Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good evening, friends. It's a lovely evening, crisp and cold, but lovely here in suburban Chicago. We got a dusting of snow Sunday, all day Sunday, so we have a little bit of snow sprinkled here and there, and it stayed cold enough that most of it is still around, although it's supposed to get warmer later this week, so it's an early dusting and then it's going to be gone. It's crisp and cool. I am a little underdressed. My jacket that I wore is my cold, or my chilly but not super cold jacket, and it is now into the cold realm, so I really should have my overcoat on, and I don't. So I'm a little cold today, but otherwise nice. It's also got a biting wind today, which doesn't feel great, but you know, whatever. That's what happens when you live in the Midwest. So today I thought I would talk about a few games that I've played recently for the first time and reflect on what I thought of them. That's right, it's a Board Game Espresso triple shot. For those of you new to the podcast, Board Game Espresso Triple Shot is a quick review segment I do pretty regularly, almost every other episode, in which I talk about 3 games I've played for the first time recently and give kind of a first impressions review. And then I usually also talk about 1 game that I've dusted off. So that's what we're doing today. 2 of these 3 games come from a recent game night or game day that we had with some friends. And then the third one is some of the new hotness. So woohoo. The first game I want to talk about is Glow. Glow was designed by Cedric Chabousset, and with art by Ben Basso and Vincent Dutrait. I would say very striking art. This game trades a lot on its beautiful black and white line drawings of sort of mystical or strange animals. The premise of the game is that you are on a journey of some sort, and you are collecting these animals that will help you on your journey. It is a deck builder of sorts, or kind of a hand management, I think, tableau builder. It's been it's been like a month since I played it, and I'm already forgetting some of the details. But the idea is that you're building this sort of combo of powers and that will help, or it's a deck of cards that will help you move around this mountain. In order to move from place to place on the mountain, you have to have certain activations. And sort of like, it reminds you a little of Clank in that way. In order to move from one space to another, like you have to have a key to move through one door or whatever. And these activations are on the cards, but the cards then also do other things as well. Your goal is to move around, and the place, you get points as you move around, but also the place where you end up gets you a whole bunch of points. I will confess I'm not doing a great job of explaining how it plays because it was long enough ago and it didn't make a huge impression on me. That said, I do remember liking it enough that it certainly would fall into the I'd play again category, but I didn't find myself jealous that I wasn't the one who owned it. I thought it was good, not amazing. The art, on the other hand, is incredible. If you get a chance to go look at the art, the design of the game is beautiful. I think there's certainly, what's interesting is the art is credited to 2 people, as I mentioned, Vincent Dutrait being one of them, but this does not look like a Vincent Dutrait game, which most of the time you can tell it's his art. He's got a very specific style. Obviously, he's got a style that he does for Lookout-Spiele. If you look at the way that the people look in all the Uwe Rosenberg games, he's got that particular style, but then he also has the kind of more realist style that you see in something like New York 1901 and Tenpenny Parks. But then this is totally different. It does not look anything like what he's produced before, but it is beautiful. I don't know how much of that is Ben Busso or Ben Russo, and how much of it is Dutrait guiding the art rather than actually drawing it. I don't know. But it is beautiful and worth a look if you get a chance. That's Glow. The publisher is Bombix on that one. All right, the second game I want to talk about comes from that same game day. It's another game my buddy Paul had picked up, and this is Underlings of Underwing. This is a game about dragons. You're cultivating resources that you need to hatch dragon eggs, and then the dragons do stuff for you. So the game gives you a very limited number of workers, and the process basically is you're acquiring resources, and then you have to put those resources onto eggs, and you often end up having more resources than you can put onto one egg. And so you end up putting resources on eggs that either you aren't going to be able to get or you don't want, which means that you end up inadvertently helping one another. That said, this game, I don't know, we need a category for it. Maybe you call it cutthroat cute. This is a game, it reminds me in terms of tension of Bob Ross, The Art of Chill. Now, if you haven't played Bob Ross, The Art of Chill, it appears to be a relatively calm and easy game. In it, you are doing paintings. You're acquiring paint, you're acquiring brushes, you're making paintings. However, because there's a relatively limited set of paints and brushes available, and there's a relatively limited set of paintings available, acquiring those paints and paintbrushes in the right order and at the right time becomes an incredibly cutthroat activity, meaning that Bob Ross, The Art of Chill, turns into something nightmarish. I mean, not in a bad way, but it is a much less chill game than you'd expect. The same can be said for Underlings of Underwing. This is a game that on the face of it looks like it's going to be very cute. You have these cutesy little drawings of dragons with cute little names, and generally the game has this sort of pastel color set or jewels color set to it that looks lovely. And then you start playing, and immediately you realize that somebody else is going to take the egg you want, so you're trying to think of a different one to take, and then somebody else steals your stuff, and boy, this game gets really cutthroat really fast. We had a good time playing it, but boy, it was meaner than most games I would generally choose to play, and I probably wouldn't suggest playing it again because of that. That said, the art had this nice watercolor sort of style with a kind of scratchy look for the dragons, and they were very cute. The gameplay was simple enough to understand, but vicious in its ramifications. So we had a lot of fun, but boy, it did get mean, and it was very easy to go on tilt when you're playing Underlings and Underwings. So check it out if you dare, but be wary of it. This was an independently produced game, as far as I understand it. The main designer was Kevin Balestrini. Also credited are Skylar Skoda and Alicia Volkman. Those last two are also credited as the artists. So it really was a very constrained or small group activity. And Pericles Limited is the name of the publishing house, which I imagine is the publishing house for Underlings and Underthings. Or Underlings and Underwings. There's no Underthings as far as I understand. Zero lingerie in the game. So, I would play again if someone else suggested, but I certainly wouldn't ask for it, and it's pretty mean. So beware of that. All right, next up is the game I got off the shelf. As a reminder, off the shelf or out of the dust means that it's been more than a year since I've played it. And so metaphorically or not, it's gotten dusty. And so when I take it out of the dust, I've taken it off the shelf to play, and it's been more than a year. This is a game I brought on economic night to my college board game society that I host every other Thursday. And basically, this is a game I told my students, this is what people should be playing instead of Monopoly. It's just cutthroat, but more interesting decisions, more fun, well worth it if you get a chance. Acquire is the game I was talking about. Of course, I have the 3M bookshelf edition with like the stern businessmen in pale green on the cover. And so it feels like a game from the 60s, but of course, Acquire is from the brilliant mind of Sid Sackson. It turns out to be an excellent game, well worth a play more often than I have played it. Namely, it's been 2 years, 3 months, and 7 days since last time I played Acquire. Now, if you haven't played Acquire, the game is, like I said, it's an economic game of buying and selling companies. You draw tiles and place hotels, they're called in the game, on this grid board. And whenever you place one hotel next to another, it starts a hotel chain, or it's added to the hotel chain. And then you get to buy stock in the chain. And the bigger the chain is, the more the stock is worth. And then you merge the chain with another chain, and the bigger one eats up the smaller one. And the people who own the smaller one get a dividend payout. And you can either take the cash, which fuels buying more stock, or you can take, at a price of 2 to 1, stock certificates in the new chain. And then at the end of the game, all the chains that are left pay out big time, depending on whether you have the most or second most or whatever. It's a really, really good game. Excellent. If you've never played it and you have any memory of liking some aspect of Monopoly or a competitive economic game, Acquire is the game for you. They just released a new edition of it this year. I think Renegade Games picked it up and released a nice new edition, so it should be available. In fact, one of my students who played that game with me said that she asked her mom to buy it and her mom bought it and they're going to play it over Christmas. So that's a victory. Acquire from Sid Saxon. All right, my last new game that I want to talk about today is Septima. Septima is a game from Mind Clash Games. It's designed by Robin Hegelis with art by Bakken Bernay and Vilo Farquez. Not only may I have pronounced those badly, but I'm also reading my handwriting on a scrap of paper in the dark, so I might not have said anything correct there. You can go look. There'll be a link in the show notes to the games page on Board Game Geek. This is published by Mind Clash Games, a company that I am unabashedly a fanboy for. I believe I own every game they've published except for Astra and Voidfall. Voidfall was just too expensive at the wrong time. And I've seen a copy of Voidfall in person, and boy, did I have some FOMO for that. Anyway, Septima is a game of witches, witch covens, running around a sort of faux New England town or a medieval town, healing people and trying not to get caught by the witch finders. The game has these witch finders who are running around and you are trying to avoid getting caught by them. Or if you do get caught, you want to win your trial so you don't lose your witch. And you are trying to heal people and gain reputation by healing people, and keep the townspeople from getting too angry with you, and put some of your loyal people in the jury pool so that when the vote comes up, the loyal pro-witch folks are there and witches don't get banished. The game's quite explicit that they get banished. At its heart, this is a Euro game that has a really interesting action selection mechanism. Everybody's got a deck of, I think, 9 cards that do different things. Now, on your turn, you're going to pick one to do. If you and another player pick the same card, you get a bonus, but you also become more suspicious, which makes it more likely that the witch catchers will find you. There is also the Grand Septima, which is the matriarch of all witches. And if you match her, you also get that matching bonus, but then you become more suspicious as well. So it's a game of managing expectations. It's also hand management. You'll keep those cards in hand for a certain amount of time, then you pick them back up. So there's a little bit of knowing who's going to play what. You can talk to each other and kind of arrange it. It works really well. It's really fun. It's very Euro focused for how thematic it sounds, which, fits the Mind Clash mold for sure. I also couldn't help but notice that the plot is basically identical to the plot of Tricarion, which is there's a master magician who's retiring and you're competing to become the new master magician. That's the plot of Septima. There's a matriarchal witch who's retiring and you're competing to become the new Septima. That's about where the similarity ends, though. Both games are pretty crunchy. Tricarion is way heavier, but I would put Septima as heavier than, say, Anachrony. So I'd put it between Anachrony and Tricarion if you know your Mind Clash big box games. Overall, it's really fun and I look forward to playing it again. I don't have a lot more to say to it right now, except it hits all of those buttons that you like in a Mind Clash game. Lots of systems to keep track of, lots of ways to get points, lots of things to keep yourself from losing points. It's excellent. So if you get a chance to try Septima, I encourage you to do so. Well, that's about it for me today. Thanks for joining me on my walk. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.